Dale, tell me, or go ahead, tell me. We're having conversations with change makers, and today's guest is Renard Jenkins. He's a media executive who is really provoking positive social change. I hope you enjoyed this talk. Welcome, Renard. We are very happy and honored to have you here in Dale Cuéntame, or Dale Tell Me. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. As I said, we're very happy because you work, or you have been working for many years on what we are here about in Dale Cuéntame, or Dale Tell Me, which is the diversity, but the union of our unifying our diversity. So we'll start by asking you to share about your background, personal and professional, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Well, a little bit about me. I'm a California kid, always at heart. The Bay Area, Oakland is home.
Oh,
I have family on the East Coast, which is where I ended up going to college and finishing there. I have been in the business of media and entertainment for 33 years. Um, I'm a true family man with two daughters, a wonderful wife. Um, I love what I do. I love what I do, whether it is what I do for my corporate day job or it is what I do as a volunteer within the SMPTE Executive Committee, which is
mhm.
the Society of Motion Picture Television and Engineers. And also the Hollywood Professionals Association, HPA, on which I sit the board. Um, and I focus really on DEI efforts. And I've been doing this, pretty much my entire career because I found that it was something that it was an area that needed focus.
Yes, and we're gonna go. This episode really is about that, about your work on those two organizations. But I had to go back. Since you are from Oakland, since you are a California kid, what is your basketball team?
Uh, my basketball team is actually the Lakers. Even though I grew up in the
Oh,
Bay Area, I am not a go. I'm not a Warriors fan. I am a true Laker fan. Have been all my life.
oh wow! I'm a Warriors fan. That's why I say that's the best team in the world for me. It is. Okay, so, but we're gonna say you've been working, as you said, 30 years for the media. I've been working, we were talking before, and
Hmm.
as an independent producer, boutique production company is what I have. But going back to when you started in the media, in this case, it's media, we both work on that, but let's think about people working in different corporations. So it's different, right? So when we are people of color going and to big corporation, and how was it for you at the beginning?
I think really and truly, it's a unique experience for everybody. But I know that as a man of color coming into the media industry, I did not have a lot of people who look like me to look up to and to sort of give me guidance. I think that at that time there was still a need for for individuals in that space to learn how to work together and learn how to allow someone to be who they are and also be able to allow that person to grow and to advance. So the thing for me was that coming into the business, understanding that it was something that I wanted to do, and it was something that I was willing to work really hard to learn and to do, was one thing. But hard work is not all that gets you to where you want to go. There's a need for someone to advocate for you. There's a need for someone to sort of give you opportunities and open doors for you. And you know, I had individuals who did that for me, and that was the part of my career that I think really is important to never forget. And so I try and do that for others within my career, which is why I volunteer to do a lot of the things around diversity, equity, and inclusion that I do, is because I do want to get to the point where I can look around a room and I can see people who look like me or who look similar to me. And that's important to me.
Hmm. Let me ask you, were those individuals that you were talking about the ones that helped you, maybe mentors, I don't know, but were they people of color too?
I had to be honest, the majority of them were not.
Mm,
The majority of them were not. And it's one of those things where at that time, there were not a lot of people of color in a position to help me.
mm,
So the ones that I knew of and the ones who were in positions, I will say there were some, and they were very instrumental. There were
mhm,
plenty of people of color who were very instrumental in my career, whether they were some of my peers who just encouraged me, or
mhm,
whether there was a superior in another organization or something like that who, sort of guided me and just provided a listening ear.
mhm,
And then as I went on throughout my career, like I said, the people, there were a lot of, for me being in the engineering and technology space, there were a lot of white men. And I
mm,
can tell you that for me, there were a couple of individuals who, they really stand out, and those individuals helped to open doors for me. They made sure that I had a seat at the table, and they encouraged me to make sure that my voice was heard. And that's really all that they had to do. At least that's what they
mhm,
tell me. They said, they tell me,
mm,
they said, all we had to do was open the door and let you in. And from there, your talent and your skill took it away. And I appreciate them telling me that. Um,
mm.
but yeah, like I said, you have to have an advocate who's at the table,
Yeah.
someone who's there, and then you need to have someone who can be a guide for you through a lot of the politics and the just learning the way to navigate corporate America, and to navigate in situations that are a little bit unnatural to a lot of times to people of color.
And as you say, or as your mentors said, it's not only because I think this is important for our audience to listen. It's not just when they open the doors, when someone or guide you, or but it's also your talent. It's also your hard work,
Hmm.
right? It's about taking advantage of the opportunities and
Hmm.
really working hard to towards your goal.
Hmm.
So how did you become involved with these organizations? Talk to me a little bit more about Hollywood Professional Association, which is where Carrie Grovin, she's very nice, and she introduced me to you, and I was so amazed by your work. And then the SIMTE. Can you
Yeah.
tell us about those two organizations?
Well, I'll start with SMPTE because I actually started working with SMPTE when I was in college. Once
Wow.
I started my major in college, I wanted to be a marine biologist, and that was
Mm,
really where I wanted to go. And science was always one of those things that I just loved, and I loved learning. So when I switched my major to television and film, that was a big deal, of course, for my mother and my stepfather, because they wanted me to
yeah.
hurry up and graduate. Um,
Mm,
but
mm,
I changed my major because it was something that I'd always done as a kid. So
mm,
so SMPTE was brought to my attention by one of my professors, and he said, these are the people who are creating the standards. These are the people who are creating a lot of the sort of the the foundational tools that are needed for you to create content and to create film and television. So I started reading the journal that he got every month, or I think it was monthly at that point. But I started reading the journal as a student,
mm,
and then I got involved. And then as my career started to take off, of course, you start to get focused on family and things like that. And I stepped away for a little while, but then I rejoined. And when I rejoined, I really put a lot of effort into volunteering and to being a real part of what was happening in the society. And so I spent a lot of time, once again, learning from the people who were around me. And then I became an Eastern Region governor. I was a manager for my local section, And just
Mhm.
recently, I have joined the board of I've joined the executive committee of SMPTE as the VP of membership. And my focus is really on creating student chapters and then working with each one of the sections to make sure that they get what they need and that they remain strong. In all of that, I am also the head of the working group within SMPTE, which is
Mhm.
focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm, it is thought to be that I am the first African American male to be in this position. Um,
Mhm.
and so I look at that and I say, this is something that I want to try and do in order to make sure that there are more people who look like me or who look similar to me, whether they are male or female, who can get into this organization and get into this business and feel comfortable.
Mhm.
And then the Hollywood Professional Association is one of those events and one of those organizations that I have been a member for a few years, and I've been around it for a very long time. I've spoken at their conference, and I have a lot of friends who are members and who are on the board. And so we
Mhm.
started a partnership between SMPTE and HPA on DEI initiatives and putting our efforts and our work together. And I'm a board member of the Hollywood Professional Association as well. So it's a
Mhm.
nice bridge between two things. And SMPTE focuses on the technology, and
Mhm.
the Hollywood Professional Association focuses on how to use that technology to create just wonderful content. And
Mhm.
so bringing those two organizations together and realizing that the industry as a whole really has a need for inclusion. They need to
Mhm.
increase the amount of inclusion that we have in this industry. Both organizations are committed to trying to help to do that. And for me, that's a sweet spot because that is what I want to do. I want my legacy, hopefully, one day when I am long gone, I hope someone can say that I helped, some people get into this business and I helped some people understand that this is a great business to be in. And I made some inroads to try and change, the way that things have been for far too long. And I hopefully change them for the better.
Yeah. Can you, since you are the expert on this, and we can move away, but I really thank you for what you're doing in this industry, but moving away from the media entertainment industry or production,
Hmm.
any corporation, when they use and even are creating these DEI, areas, what would you say is the difference between diversity, equity, and equality and inclusion?
Well, I think we'll start with inclusion. Okay, the
Mhm.
inclusion is exactly what it says. You want to be either invited to the table or you want to have the option to go to the table if you so choose to. It should be a choice that you can make, and it should never be something that is, um, denied for you. So
Mhm.
inclusion is something that should just happen. It should just be there. Unfortunately, it's not. And that is why we have to focus on it. We have to make sure that everybody has a voice and everybody has the opportunity to be successful, to get into, whatever job they so choose to that they are qualified to do.
Mhm.
So that's inclusion. When it comes to equity, it's really about once you get there, making sure that you're treated exactly like everybody else. You
Exactly.
should be able to make the same amount of money that your counterparts who don't look like you are making. You should have the same training opportunities, the same promotion opportunities. You should have every opportunity afforded to you that's afforded to everyone else. And until we get to that point, we're going to constantly have these conversations coming back. And individuals at this point, I think, really and truly are trying to understand why, after all of this time that we've been on this planet, that we're still fighting the same fight. So for me, equity is an important part of it. Diversity for me is simply, you need to look around the room. You need to look around your neighborhood. You need to look around this country, or you need to look around the world. And when you
Mhm.
do, you see that there are so many aspects of human beings. There's so many versions of us in every corner. Every version should be represented. Every person, no matter who you are, no matter what your genetic makeup is, no matter what your skin tone is, no matter the level of melanin in your skin, you should be included. You should be valued and you should be respected. And for me, that's what diversity means.
Exactly. And this is the thing for me. I think corporations or people, any people, including others,
Mm-hmm.
should see the percentage. You should employ people that are your
Mm-hmm.
clients. So that I think in just going for the business call, if you want higher revenue, you should have people serving, the same people that you serve. You should include
Oh
them.
yeah,
But
definitely.
not only that, as you said, I just wanted to summarize, not only have them on your company, but treat them the same
That's
way.
right.
So that's equity. Like
Mm-hmm.
you say, for me, from the three words, the second one is the most important. But what do
Oh
you
yeah,
think?
I definitely think equity is important because you can be at the table and you could not be treated, like everybody else. And what will happen is you will end up, you know, getting up from that table, pushing the chair back in, and looking for another place where you can be accepted. If companies actually want to serve their customers in the best manner, then they need to have people who look like them there. They need to have people who
Mhm.
understand that culture, who understands what the needs are. And no one person from any culture can represent the entire culture. So you can't just say, I'm
Mhm.
going to have one token person and they're going to tell
Mhm.
me everything. That's not going to happen. What you need to do is have multiple people who can get together and shine a light into a space that you may not be familiar with. And then start to not only like shine the light, but take the time to understand the culture, learn about each other, you know, understand one
Yeah.
another, take it to the next level where you're spending time with one another so that um, you can start to develop more of a sort of camaraderie that
Mhm.
which will in turn out better products. When you have diversity of thought in a meeting, you're going to get better ideas. When your thoughts are simply the same, or you have the same people who are either nodding their head or shaking their head in agreement, generally you're going to get one idea out of that room and everybody's going to say, okay, yeah, that's great, and so forth and so on. But but you don't necessarily get the best idea. When you bring different views, different experiences, to the table, which you can only get if you bring people who are different together, when you do that, you're going to get a more well-rounded product. You're going to get a well-rounded experience. And that's one of the things I think corporate America is starting to understand.
Mhm.
Um, and my hope is that, I should say, my hope is that they're starting to understand, and my hope is that they see the value in it. And to be honest, a lot of people really look at DEI and they say, "Oh, it's the right thing to do." Well, yeah, all
Mhm.
of us that were raised, with biblical principles, we know that that's the right thing to do. However, from a business standpoint, you still have to make a business case. And the business case is very simple. If you plan to take money out of the pockets of individuals who don't look like you, then you need to understand what it is that drives them to want to give you the money out of their pocket. And you will never understand that if you don't have a conversation with them and have them as a part of your solution.
Exactly. It is exactly like that. But let's talk about the problems, or at least the things that I see as an obstacle. I study psychology, so I always like to look for research and statistics. The other thing is the why savior complex. I think that's a problem in this issue. and also that people are afraid, and not just white people, but people are afraid of other people, like maybe Latinos from black from Asians, or things like
Mhm.
that. So people are afraid of others, and why savior complex? What can you tell me about that?
Well, that's a pretty deep question. I simply look at it like this. Fear is generally based in a lack of understanding. And until we come together to understand each other at a deeper level, we will always live in fear. I choose personally not to live my life that way. I choose to be open to understanding other people and understanding other cultures. But look, we all know that as human beings, there's good and bad everywhere. We cannot judge an entire people by the actions of a single person. And I think a lot of times that's what happens. Individuals have a bad experience with someone who doesn't look like them, and they carry that into the next relationship. It's just like when you have a bad boyfriend or girlfriend. The next person that follows that person is going to have one heck of a time with you because you're trying to deal with all that you just experienced. And so, what I think really and truly will help us as human beings is for us to understand that we are much more alike than we will ever be different. And once we
Yeah,
actually kind of coalesce around those similarities, that's when we will start to see a lot less fear, and we will see people actually understanding how to work together. One of the things I can say about, you know, the way I grew up is I was surrounded by people who look like me. But outside of my household, I had the world to deal with. And the world may have seen me when I was a kid as, oh, look, there's just this little black kid, you know, oh, he's harmless. But as I became a teenager, I had to deal with the fact that the world saw me in a way that was not in any way who I was. And knowing that I grew, I had to be aware of my surroundings. I had to make sure that I was in a safe place, to make sure that if I was stopped by the cops, that I knew what to do. If I, wanted to go outside of my neighborhood, I had to make sure that I had people with me. That's not the way that you want people to grow up, because it does
yeah,
something
of
to your
course.
psyche. It makes you, one, extremely aware of your surroundings all the time, but it also makes you suspect of the things around you as to whether or not they are real, as to whether or not you can be safe in the environment that you are. And no one should live their life feeling that they are not safe.
Of
So
course.
as a black man in this country, I know that I have to present myself in a certain way when I leave my house, because if I don't, individuals are going to look at me in a manner that they have already decided based off of what they have seen in their life. That could be good or bad, whatever it is. So I try and make sure that I'm always my authentic self, and I encourage others to do the same thing. And I also encourage individuals to accept others as they present their authentic self.
Yeah, that's you just reminded me, and I have to mention it now. I remember last year, and I have my daughter lives in Washington D.C., and she was so upset with the family. I have to say it because, and there were these millennials, Latinos or other, that they were so upset because of the Black Lives Matter, the what was happening, and it was no, no, no. Of course we are upsetting. I was. I remember watching the TV and seeing Mr. Floyd on the floor, and I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I stand up and moved and went to walk. I can't believe those things, and again, people understanding that
Mm-hmm.
is wrong, that is extremely wrong. But that we all act differently. But what would you say? And I really would like your comment on this Black movement, Black Lives Matter, obviously. So, but for others to understand, maybe let's say that we have an Asian person
Mm-hmm.
from China, or we have Latinos, or that obviously think that's wrong, but they don't understand
Mm-hmm.
what you just said. Why would you have to get into your car and have fear if a police officer, stop
Yeah.
you? Please tell us.
Look, this is the reality that we're living in right now. Mr. Floyd's death, an awakening for a lot of people, but I can tell you that for the Black community that I come from, this was not a surprise.
Ah,
This was what we were taught that we had to be careful of.
okay.
This was something that, you may see on the news, but there are so many others that we have never, ever heard their names. We don't know who they are. And in a lot of situations, their deaths have not even been, formally investigated. So I say that to say that we're now in a space in this world where people are coming to the realization that we have to look out for one another. We have to understand that that person who you may fear has their own struggles every single day that they have to go through.
Hmm.
And it is necessary for us to realize that Mr. Floyd is just one of hundreds of thousands of situations. And it is so tragic what happened to him, and the fact that it continues to happen. That, for me, is hard to rectify in my mind. Because you live your life wanting to believe the good in everybody. And then you come to the realization that someone could have such a lack of love for life that they could do that to another human being.
Yes.
That's just it. It's beyond disgusting. It's beyond angering. It's beyond comprehension, at least to
Yes.
me.
It should be to everybody.
It
And
should,
she
it
and
should
should
be.
be.
It should be to everybody.
It is, and again, one of the things that me, and I would say as a mother, because for me, every human being is the same. And I know, and we were talking with one of the guests that I do believe, and I do believe that I have this colorblind thing. But in any state, anything doesn't have to be. But we didn't touch, and I just want to say the white savior complex for me is something like, it's not white, by the way, because I have Latinos in the
Hmm.
East Coast and the West that think differently
Hmm.
from the ones in the West Coast, or maybe people from Mexico. I'm from Honduras,
Hmm.
who thinks differently from people from Central America. So that complex of and again, it's no, I'm better, but I'm gonna help. I was in a church. I remember one time that they accepted different people from, even atheists, but and I was so happy, but then I realized that's not what I wanted. One of the things that I remember, they were divided inside that church, like, Latinos in one side, African Americans in another one.
Mm-hmm.
And when I ask, oh, see, this caravan is coming. Oh, see, the black, and they say, oh, yeah, we sent a check to them. Oh, we went to Tijuana to build houses. So that is, for me, white savior complex. You really need to get involved. You really need to understand the other. And, you don't have to become a black person or a Latino or, but you really need to, this DEI for me is really important to understand. What would you say are the steps to really make that work?
Yeah, the first thing is you have to educate yourself about cultures. You have to understand what it is that that is the foundation of a culture. And you can't, like I said, you can't learn that from one person. You have to sort of immerse yourself in education about about everybody, to be honest. Once you do that, I think that those with a good heart, those who really and truly want to do the right thing, it's about getting involved in a manner that actually suits you. Get involved at the level in which you think you can be involved and be committed to it. If that's sending emails, that's fine. If it's going on social media and trying to convince others, that's your way of advocating. You really have to sort of put yourself out there and understand that, one, not everybody's going to be with you and not everybody's going to agree with you. But if you truly want to help, then you have to be more than an ally. You have to be an advocate. You have to be a sponsor. You have to be, in fellowship with those who you intend to help. That's what it takes.
Yes. And like you said, in corporations, for example, in this enterprise, you form committees, you also set up a plan. For me, it's not like, okay, we're going to hire this number of people or we're going to have this committee and they're going to work on diversity. But you have a plan to execute and then set timelines. And maybe I'm thinking as a producer, but you set timelines of seeing these results, correct? I think, but again, Renard, you're doing such a great job in these organizations. I imagine, I know and I've heard about how you enjoy your work in this technical part of the media companies, but also helping these people in DI. What would be your last advice, if you will, to everyone to work towards this unity?
I would say that, this should not be a trend. It should not be something that is just sort of here for a moment and then we kind of forget about it and all go back to the way that things were. I think really and truly this needs to be something that we work on, and we work on it so hard that we measure what we do, just like we measure any of our KPIs in business. And then my hope is that we work towards the day when we don't have to have these types of conversations. We work towards the day when it is so ingrained in everything that we do, from the way that we recruit talent to the way that we grow them once they get into our businesses, to the way that we promote them, and to the way that we help them to start their own industries, their own businesses. That's what I want to see. And I think companies can do that, but they have to be committed to it. They have to really and truly be committed to this. And it is not about ticking off a box to say that I have one person who looks like this or one person who thinks like this. And, that's not what it's about. It's really about looking out. And when you get ready to hire someone, you hire people that are going to bring to you something that you don't already have. And you make sure that you have a well rounded board of executives, a well rounded cast, a well rounded group of individuals who are, helping to create your products and creating your experiences. That's really what the focus needs to be. And that's my advice is you've got to get to the point where that is it's just ingrained. It's a part of who you are and what you do. It's not something that you have to think about. That's where we need to be. And I'm just surprised that after the number of years that human beings have been here on this planet that we're not there yet.
Yes, I am too. And again, thank you very much. We had to do that. Thank you, Renard. You really are an example of what we all should be doing in our lives is taking action. You do that. So thank you for
Thank you
that.
very much for having me. I appreciate it.
And thank you for being here. These are talks with people who are positive change makers in this beautiful multicultural world. Stay tuned. Hasta la próxima.